He's putting out fires.
Which you should do over at Suzanne's house.
Yeah. Working double duty with Suzanne's house.
Mr. Carter. Oh, thanks, Scare. Oh, geez,
I'm leaving. I'm just gonna go.
That was a scary hammer. Okay. I'll call this special meeting to order for the budget tonight. We'll stand for the pledge. And Jamie, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Kathy, roll, please.
Carter,
Here.
Walther,
Here.
Powell,
Here.
Barstow,
Here.
Hayes, Pickens,
Here.
Lee,
Okay, we have a quorum present. As I said, the purpose of this meeting tonight is to discuss the proposed 2020 city budget. And that's what we'll be discussing, so if anybody has any citizens' comments, that's what we'll be happy to be discussing. So, any citizens' comments? Not seeing any, we'll move on to new business, which is the 2020 city budget. Would you like to give us a little intro, BJ?
Certainly would, Mayor. Thank you. First of all, I just want to thank all the departments for their work on putting together the CIP and the operating budgets for 2020. What was provided this evening are the CIP budgets, which typically this meeting is spent reviewing, discussing, answering questions on. The finance director, Nicholson, and I did have an opportunity, as you know, to meet with all of the directors to review their budgets, make some changes, modifications. One thing I want to emphasize, what is in front of you tonight, and as we go through the budget, it is a fluid document, and as always, there will be changes made as we go through it. What you'll see with the CIP, I believe, is some approaches to investing in our infrastructure, maximizing funds for the annual road program as we have in past years, starting to address through design and some investment in long-standing drainage issues, the Taylor Road Drainage Project and Haloon Lane being two of the first that we're talking about. Also starting to invest in maintenance of our bridges. Bridges are a costly expenditure when we need to replace them, so taking a look at those and coming up with a maintenance program for those to maximize and extend the usable life of those. And also starting to address some of our older culverts or bigger culverts that are underneath roads. We have some on Blacks Road that need to be replaced. We have some head wall issues and wing wall issues on some on Kennedy's Mill. So just investing in our infrastructure to maximize the life of those. That carries over to the utility department with our annual pump programs, having funding for those. The big one being the investment through the 0% interest loan, but still managing it. The water reclamation facility improvement projects, but also addressing the Beechwood Road or Beechwood Trails water tanks through painting and cleaning those, which are coming due. Also some water line replacements. You also see some discussion in the memos that were presented about staffing. I know with the Public Service Department, that's been discussed in the committee meetings. There's some for Parks and Recreation. Also, the majority of those are field staff to be able to improve our productivity and get additional stuff done out in the field, whether it's public service or parks. One highlight I do want to show is that our capital leases, if you remember in past years, we've had capital leases where we purchased additional equipment, majority for the Public Service Department. 2019 to 2015 lease rolled off, and in 2020, we're going to see the 2016 lease roll off. So that program certainly has been beneficial to us to be able to have and replace a lot of aged equipment that hadn't been replaced in years. those are starting to roll off, and, you know, as we get further out in the 5-year projection, you'll start to see some, investment in starting to replace some of that stuff, whether it's the hot box or river patch or any of that stuff. With that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Jamie, and I think he could walk us through the memo that he presented as well, and we look forward to answering any questions council may have.
Mr. Nicholson?
Thank you. You know, a lot of times it's the chicken or the egg. Which do you do first? Do we sit in front of you and ask you questions, what you want? Do we do it and bring it to you? We're kind of doing the latter, but we can't do this in a vacuum. We think we know what council's priorities are, but it's hard to know until we sit in front of you and actually let you share your concerns and issues. So the purpose of tonight is a planning workshop. I mean, this is the same schedule we've followed in the past 4 years, I think, or so. And so the purpose of tonight really is to kind of, the biggest piece of it's the CIP, making sure that the projects and the equipment and the investment in infrastructure match up with the priorities of council. Because if we're not providing the improvements, investments where you think that they're important, then this gives us an opportunity to go back and rework the budget to incorporate things that we believe have a higher priority. So that's the purpose of tonight, is to really to get a sense from council if we're on the right track or if we need to make some course corrections in the budget planning process. The goal would be we would have on October 16th would be the preliminary budget document that we get out to you guys. So any changes that we kind of get from you guys here, we would incorporate it and bring it back. So then you would have at least a preliminary sort of a set point to work from. So just so everyone's on the same page. But I did want to have some paper in your hands so you had at least something to refer to, and it wasn't just me saying words to you. And I apologize. I'm having a hard time with my glasses, so you guys are all blur. So if I don't look like I'm looking at you, it's like I really can't see right now. Income tax collections. Let's talk real quickly about revenue. We are forecasting a 3.25% growth in income tax revenues. That generally has been between high 2s to low 4s. My own philosophy is I'd rather be a little conservative. If it comes in at 3.5, then everybody's happy, as opposed to my budget 3.5 and it comes in at 3 and suddenly we've got fund shortfall. So I think that's probably a fairly realistic.
2 to 400,000, right?
No, percentages. The upper 2%
All right.
to 4%.
Okay.
So I did a 3.25, which would calculate out to being goes from about $5.9 million to just almost $6.1 million. So that's the total income tax collections that we're looking for next year. We did incorporate the recently adopted utility rate increases, although we only did it for 9 months, assuming the first 3 months we would not, in the first year we would not get collections, because I think it's with the January, but those statements don't go out till March, I believe. So there's a lag there. Although in years out, it's for a full year amount. So those have already been incorporated. Other than, I think there was an OPWC project out in 2022 or 3. Other than that, and a possibility of another capital lease, there's no debt issuances. We've not assumed we're going to issue any debt for anything we're doing next year. One thing that I want to point out that's really good news, we had our COHCC, the Central Healthcare Consortium, as you recall, that's the group we belong to. We have a seat on the board. Because we're a smaller group, we're lumped in with what they call the small group, and we all get rated together. And we're actually probably we help everybody else in that pool. We're very low loss ratio. So once we hit 50 employees on the plan, which in the next few years it's a possibility, we would be able to have a better impact on our own stuff. But with that said, 9.5% is the stated increase for next year. One of the things the pool does is they have an actuarial evaluation done of the pool, and there's 3 levels, and I'm not going to get into detail, but basically the most stringent about being fiscally solvent and stable and best financial condition. That level of reserves, we set our reserves at that level, and anything excess can be rebated back to the cities. So what we're going to receive is a half a month what they call holiday premium.
So in January, we would pay, and that's half a month's premium instead of a full month's premium. Well, if you factor that into the full year cost, it's about a 4% increase year over year. So we're finally starting to see some of the fruit from being in the pool. We couldn't take advantage of it last year because we hadn't contributed to any of those reserves and they weren't willing to share them with me, but we did get it this year. So I'm really pleased with about an overall 4% increase in health insurance, given what everything else that's going on. So that's wonderful news. As BJ commented, you know, this is still a very much work in progress. We were still fine tuning timing of some projects, whether they're funded or unfunded, even as of earlier today, to ensure that the fund balance over the 5 years looks good. The police funds and the street funds are very strong, although they do show a slight decline out in the later years. And we can talk about some of the projects and some of the initiatives that both departments are going through, but that's where those are. The weakest is probably the general fund. It has very limited resources. It has the 2.9 mil inside mill property tax, so we get that. We get fines and forfeitures, permit fees, things like that. So it's a very limited, there's not a lot that can change revenue-wise. So the struggle is, as we add more expense to the general fund, trying to find a way to fund that. So that's one of the things that BJ and I are going to do next week, is to kind of, or later on this week, is to sit down and kind of go through that and look to see what other options we have for maybe where we've placed some expenses or whether we can reduce expenses. Really just kind of trying to find a way to strengthen the general fund. So that's kind of where we're going. Water and sewer, overall their fund balances, again, they are declining. They are in better shape projecting than they were. The capital infrastructure, the debt service on that right now, I think on the sewer side is probably the most challenged because it doesn't have enough resources to necessarily cover it from the capital improvements fund. So I think the sewer operational fund actually ended up supplementing some of that. So that's kind of like a 10,000 foot perspective of the budget, of where we're at. Again, like I said, the major thing is the CIP. And yes, there is a document that talks about unfunded. It was on the last page here. One of the concerns that we always want to make sure that we make council aware of is if we present a budget and you approve it and everybody thinks life's great, we got everything we needed to do to get it done. The reality is there are things that we'd love to do. We all understand we don't have the resources to do some of those, but we want to make sure they stay on the table so that everyone's aware of them, so that they don't fall off and get forgotten. So that's why we do this report just for the same purpose, so you see what we haven't included, and if there's things on this unfunded list that you guys think are a higher priority and need to be done sooner, then we take that information back so we figure out what we move around or bump out or whatever. Any questions on that process so far, where we're at?
Jamie, when you talk about the income tax being pegged at 3.25%, are you looking at compliance as well as new? Or are you looking at, you guys are estimating that people will make more? How do you get to that for you?
It's a combination of, we have growth, so as we add new houses, new rooftops, we bring in more wages, which generates more income tax. We also have the factor that we have a fairly strong economy right now, and so as a result, not just Catskill, if I look at all of Rita, comparable communities, that being those that have not recently increased their income tax rate or modified their rate, so you're looking apples to apples, they're seeing a similar kind of increases. So it's more of an economics thing. I mean, I might be, if we were to land some sort of monster firm that would bring a lot of corporate jobs with large salaries, obviously we would add that in there. Or if we were to lose one, if we had a monster company that we lost overnight, same kind of thing. I had experience in Grandview where we lost Big Bear Warehouse, and it was like you lost the revenue like really, really fast. So that's always a challenge. But yeah, we're pretty stable and it's been just chugging along, and that's a good situation to be in.
Thank you.
On the compliance side, what do we estimate to be the percentage of people or entities that should be paying income tax that are paying income tax? I know we've done some things in the previous years to improve that. We worked with the water department to try to get a list of people and things like that.
Rita, who obviously represents us, they have a process where they obviously they send out notification letters, cards, phone calls. Eventually those, if they don't get a response or having a conversation, then those escalate. They get referred to their legal department, which then can pursue, whether it's small claims or whatever jurisdiction they go to, they actually pursue it at that point, and then if they have to, they go to collections. But it is a lengthy process of, they don't jump to anything draconian right away. There are phone calls, they're well documented, letters, postcards, and the like.
My question is what percentage? I mean, what does Rita tell us, or what do you think, if you know? I mean, are we 80% of the people who should be paying, or 20% of the people who should be paying? I don't know.
I can reach out to Rita. It's a fine dance because that's the federal tax data. So what they're going to have to do is compare addresses that are filed versus non-filed.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Because we've done some efforts in recent with Rita and ourselves to try to bring that percentage up. So, okay, I was just curious. All right, Mr.
Now, you just hit on it, Todd, is that over the years, since the income tax has been incorporated, every year we see a higher percentage of people paying, and I believe Janice still sees some of them where they say, I didn't know we had an income tax. So
Fewer and fewer, though.
Fewer and fewer, but that also helps drive some of that increase.
Sure. Okay.
That we're bringing more people on the books paying what they're supposed to pay.
Well, that is exactly why I asked, because one of the things that I seem to remember as I look at your budgets that we get on a monthly basis, or your fiscal report would be a better way to put it, was it kind of looks like what used to be sloped way up, we're getting way more than we thought. It's kind of become more kind of level. So that's why I wanted to see if you thought that 325 is like right in line with that kind of level, or?
I'm comfortable with that number. It's funny, when I first got here, I think the original estimate Rita and Jason worked up was like $2.9 million. I think that's what the original estimate for income tax collections was. And so part of that has been growing. When I first got here in 2012, we'd only really had it for a year and a half, so it's hard to make a trend line with one or 2 points. So it's over time, but we have a pretty good history now, so I'm pretty comfortable with that number, 3.25% growth.
Mrs. Carter?
Out of curiosity, I know there's large companies who still don't collect our tax. I mean, like Ohio Health, for instance.
Yeah.
Is there anything we can do to help that, or is that?
It's my understanding that employers are required by law to withhold for the cities in which they operate. They're not required to withhold do courtesy withholding for their employees. We always tell people, good employers, air quotes, do that. But a lot of large ones don't want to mess with it. It's more taxing jurisdictions for them to file with. Although if they're already filing with Rita for Westerville or whoever they might be filing with, it's just another line on the form to Rita and a little more money that goes to Rita. So it's no real additional work.
Okay.
But yeah, it's unfortunate. We have, if you were to look at our top 25 taxpayers from a withholding basis, the state of Ohio is our largest employer.
Wow.
And it's not because they have operations in here, but it's because their employees, the state allows them to do courtesy withholding. So it's kind of a
We would
unique
have a lot more
situation.
if we were able to rectify some of that.
Yeah. Post office is probably the worst offender of that. The federal government telling us do as I say, not as I do. We try to get the information of the postal people that work in the city, and they'll file with Columbus, they'll file with Cincinnati and Cleveland, but much beyond that, they don't file. We can't get it. So, and we're not alone. I mean, every community that has a postal operation has the same issue.
Are we privy to that info, or is Rita, I mean, in your expert opinion, is it 90-10, 80-20? Who do you think's paying and who's not paying, and are we privy to that information?
no offense, you would not be privy to it. As the tax administrator, I do have access, but I still need to kind of have a legitimate, I can look at aggregate data, I could probably share aggregated data with you with no problem.
I understand.
I can reach out to Rita to see what kind of statistics they can, because obviously they know all the addresses within the city limits. And so that's where how they use the tax data, the federal tax data, to identify potential non-filers. So they say 123 First Street filed a federal return, had a W-2. Wait a minute, there's nobody with Rita. So then they work that internally. The federal government puts a lot, and I mean a lot of restrictions, as you would expect or hope, on accessing that data. It is literally siloed off in every way from Rita's traditional systems and everything else.
But that would be the mailman who works in Pataskala but lives in Reynoldsburg or Harrison Township or Newark or someplace like that. So if they live here, we can get the data.
Yes, we can get that
But
data.
if they don't live here, they're not gonna help us. And it's the same, I mean, the state law is clear. I mean, for example, the fire district, they should be keeping track of how, their employees who work in the city, more than, how many days is it, 20 days now, I think?
20 days. It doesn't start until day 20.
Right, same with the highway patrol and the sheriff's department. If but they don't, I don't know how much we would collect
Right.
from that. Probably would be a tremendous amount, but yeah, it's just, our state law is not very, kind of strange.
Anything?
But I can see what kind of internal compliance rate we're getting from, addresses.
Okay.
Be a proxy.
Any other opening remarks? Did you have anything, Andy?
Yeah, dude, it doesn't have anything to do with tax collection. The one concern I have is, based on the schedule that you've given us, this is gonna be in front of us for a first reading on October 16th, is that correct?
The 21st.
21st.
On the 21st?
Yeah, we have
So-
council October 7th.
That's right, okay. So essentially, the concern I have is this is our one time to really talk to you about the concerns we have in this. I got this on Friday. And, you're expecting us to go through this. So my concern would be, if that's what you want us to do, I would ask that this get to us at least another week ahead of time. That's my issue with this. I've had very little time to go through this. And, I have all kinds of, I got pretty frustrated with it today. When I look back at the 2019, which was the 2018, for the 2019 budget, there's under the general fund, there's 10 items that were on the CIP that showed a 2020 budget amount that do not reflect anywhere in the CIP, and I wonder where those went. Some of them are kind of important ones, I think, like network server components, annual IT maintenance contract, there's a Microsoft email system hosting, IP telephone system support. Where did those go?
Okay, BJ and I had a conversation, and what we decided to do was the more routine, ongoing things like IT support. If we're buying new servers, that would become a CIP item, but the routine operating expenditures, we decided to pull, we track them, we have pages for them, but we don't put them in the CIP document. I'm happy to give you all the sheets if you'd like. It's, we were just trying to only focus on the unusual, the one-offs, if you will.
Well, and not just that, those are viewed more as an operational type thing that we need to operate. And they're split up between the different departments, so they're put in those departments' operating budget just as they would if they had a CIP sheet for them. They would still be put in their operating budgets.
But I would say that if we're supposed to be looking at budgets, and we're supposed to understand where the money's being spent, what's available to spend and what's not available to spend, I think we should probably know that you're spending, something around $15,000 on, for this year. I think so. At least this is what you had shown last year for the network support. Those are things that I think are important for when you guys come back and say we need to get, and it doesn't always happen, but let's just say hypothetically, network support needs another $10,000. Well, we have this CIP that shows us that this was what the budget was for it. So I would just, two
Okay,
things.
wait,
Just
I'm happy to provide you
more
with-
time to look at this and digest it would be much appreciated. Only because my questions are gonna be pretty simple questions. I haven't had a chance to really look at this, to digest the explanations in here. I see a lot of the explanations this year are the same as the explanations as last year for items. And they seem like they're, and I would ask that if I had known more about it, I could have reached out and sent you guys an email about it, you know, anyhow, that's my opening comment.
Well, and I just have a quick question. Did we have 2 budget meetings last year?
You just had one.
We just had this one?
This is the planning meeting to kind of go over the CIP and sort of just get a general sense of where council is. We do roll out the budget, at that, the first reading, I believe, with, departments, and it's the comprehensive book, so you have a lot more information at that point. And it goes out a week before the meeting.
So we're getting this on the 30th, our first meeting's the 7th, and then the 14th, and then the 21st, it'll be the first time it's on the.
Yes.
Legislation, yeah.
And yes, sir.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, as far as the explanations, yeah, a lot of them are gonna be the same, just because, you know, they're further out from 20, you know, for this instance, you're gonna have them 20, but those that are further out, they're just carried over, so it's the same explanations. So yeah, there's a lot of them are the same.
Okay.
And also, if any member of council has questions, once they've had a chance to take a look at it, they can make arrangements to talk to BJ or Jamie and come in, you know, during the week, and they'll glad to take time and schedule, sit down and talk. And so, yeah, I would encourage everybody to do that. I know Mr. Walter has
Well,
questions.
yeah, I agree, I understand that, but have an open discussion about budget items and getting a concurrence that this is an item that I mean, that I might be all for and you guys might be against, or whatever the case may be. I think having it in open session is a much better.
No, but I mean, we'll have a meeting on the 7th. We can put that on the agenda if we want. I'll put it on the agenda to have this a
Great.
specific time to discuss those issues and air those out, and we can move those things around, look at what the rest of the agenda is. We can do that on the 7th, and that'll give me an additional time to talk.
We can also do it on the 21st before we even have the reading.
No, so I mean, we'll have it on the 7th and then the 21st, and then remember, what is it, November 4th, I think, is the, or 18th, I don't know.
18th, right before
Whatever.
Thanksgiving.
So
right,
anyway,
right,
yeah,
Thanksgiving.
so no, we're, DJ's got a question.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, to echo Tom's comments, as past years, doors are always open, let us know, I know several of you do take advantage of that every year to come in. And, also to Tom's point, you know, this is a document over the next couple of months, is going to be discussed, massaged, changed, whatever, so this is, you know, the
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Seems fair.
Okay, any other opening remarks? All right, so how you gonna do this?
Anyone else yet?
I think we could certainly call upon each, director if we wanted to, just give a highlight. I don't know if it's council's pleasure to go page by page with these.
It's a lot of detail.
It is a lot of detail. It's gonna take a long time if you do it that way.
What I was gonna propose, at least at a start, each of the departments has some, most of them have staffing requests for changes. I guess I'd like to get those out and those types of structural things out. Again, the chicken and egg thing, you know, you put it in the budget and then you say, well, I didn't know anything about it, so we're trying to get more front-loaded on that so that you hear from the department heads of why they need additional staff or changes in how they're structured or the like. So if that's council's pleasure, I guess
Okay,
that.
yeah, council's pleasure to let each director, have some time to speak on their CIP stuff, is that okay?
I guess I would ask 2 questions. Number 1, is that news to the department heads? Are they kind of winging it? And that's not a shot, it's just,
No.
do you think that everybody's
are all
cool and ready
prepared?
yet? Okay, that's
Yeah.
good.
I think they're all quite ready to be able to answer about their own
That's
budgets.
cool. The other thing is, and when we get to the budget, I think you usually change this, Jamie, but I foresee some stuff as each individual department head begins to talk about this. I can see us all madly scrambling, and there's no pagination on this. So,
Sorry, I apologize.
That's okay. I remember last time, I think it was this way, and I remember you fixed it in the.
Yeah, it's like 3 different reports that I put
Right.
together and I just forgot to do it.
It's all good. I'm just,
I will.
I think we all need to know that may
So sorry.
happen. So how I usually, me personally, do this is I have some questions down here. A lot of them are process questions. And I'm excited to hear what the department heads say. I tend to look at the stuff in the CIP, and if they hit it, I'll ask them a question, and if not, and I look at it and I go, why in the world, and I'm just looking down, I'm not picking on anybody, why in the world are we spending so much money on Halloum Lane? Just turn to that page, and then, you know, then I usually would make an appointment, talk to Alan, talk to BJ, and come in and say, what is up with the Halloum Lane? And then on the first reading, you know, say, I believe that Helene Lane should receive nothing, or whatever, and then, so we go from there.
So just a point, once you get past these, the sort of the funding source summary, and then you get there's the projects list, which comprises about the first 4 or 5 pages. When you get to the actual projects and the details, those go in alphabetical order by the name of the name of the agency. They go administration,
Finance. and
finance, parks, police,
Service, water. and
public
sewer.
service, water and sewer. I did that pretty good, didn't I? I know my ABCs. So I would suggest we do it that way. We do it in the order in which it appears in here by department, so we're not,
That would help.
okay?
That works.
Okay, so that's how we'll do it. We'll let the directors speak, and which one's the first one?
Administration.
Administration is.
Okay.
There are a couple things I want to talk about with the administration is the continued investment in our facilities. As we look at this, we have window blind treatments for City Hall building. We do have tenants, a couple of the tenants have requested new window treatments. These are the original ones as far as I know that are in here. They are deteriorating. Many rooms are missing them. Did get a quote. This is starting, and certainly when we move forward with this, we would get 3 quotes for it, but as a placeholder for this, so that would be the investment in this building. This year in this building, we invested in replacing parking lot spaces, the concrete parking lot areas that were deteriorating, the doors that were rusting out, and also the bases of the pillars outside. So that's the continued investment into this building. The finance break room improvements, this is one that is kind of in here, may not happen, still in discussions with COTC, which area they're gonna want here in the building, whether it's upstairs or down here. If they choose to go back upstairs, which finance is perfectly fine with doing, finance would move down here, this would not become an expenditure for 2020 then, because the old utilities area does already have the sink and break room areas. I'll go ahead and cover the IT stuff then. The continued GIS program, this is broken down between the general fund, water, sewer, and streets. This is the continual basis, or the continual budget for building our GIS, getting the support we need. And it's being used more and more by the departments with this. One thing I'm happy to report with this is that as we have had new staff come on board, we're gonna set up essentially classes here in-house through our retainer engineering to start teaching these guys how to use this so they can use the GIS more, populate it more, be more efficient and proficient with it out in the field. And then this year we had the $200,000 for the town hall, and when we did that, we went ahead and identified doing $60,000 per year for the town hall improvements. That is represented in the budgets here as well. Happy to answer any questions.
So BJ, that would be a good example of one that's repeated from last year. So what the town hall improvements, what exactly are we improving? Because like you said, the exact description in the 2018 budget, or 2019 budget. In 2018, replace electrical system and other smaller improvements, annual improvements or repairs to town hall. What does this include? What's the plan?
Repaving the parking lot
Okay.
will be one of them, doing additional improvements to the back area where the utilities guys are. Ultimately, some of this money is gonna start going to doing improvements in the basement as well.
Which are they drainage stuff? Is it improvements to the foundation walls? What do you mean by improvements to the basement?
The basement area, it's still undecided what's gonna be done with the basement area of that building. We're talking about making it a community area, or community space, meeting space down there. This money ultimately will go towards some of that as well. But next year, the big items are finishing the back area where the utility field staff is, and also repaving the parking lot, which I've received 3 quotes so far for repaving. It's about $25,000, so that's gonna be a lion's share of this money for next year.
Okay, thanks.
Can I ask a question about, when we repave parking lots, and I know you're asking for your lots too? I know we're skipping.
Down the road, yeah.
But is chip and seal a good, thing for parking lots for us? Could that, we save money, and would that be durable enough for, well, I mean, you're obviously, mostly work trucks would be, but, I don't, as far as the parking lot, I
I'm not familiar with chip seal parking lots, maybe for Chris's stuff, for the driveway and stuff, it could be.
Mr. Haynes,
a
can you
useful
help me with that?
solution.
I think that's hard to answer without knowing exactly what we're talking about, the condition of the subgrade and stuff. I mean, it could be a viable option, it's something we could look at depending on what area.
Obviously cheaper than blacktop, correct?
Cheaper than blacktop, yes. And probably wouldn't last as long either.
Just throwing that out there as we're thinking. Go ahead, BJ.
That's all I
You're
have
all
from
done?
administration standpoint.
Anything for Mr. King? All right, what's next up?
Parks.
Parks will be next up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had one. I apologize. I had one.
Yeah.
Your safe routes to school plan. In the previous year, you had, so 2019, 20,000 for safe routes. And again, it's showing 20,000 for this year and this year only. What exactly, this is again, one that was repeated, the same exact statements were repeated
Yes, it
for
was.
one. What exactly are we doing here? What
In
does this
order
do?
in order to apply for Safe Routes to School funding, the, original plan cannot be older than 5 years old, and ours are, so this is updating those plans, so we can be eligible to submit for those funds.
So in 2019, did we use $20,000? So there's $20,000 kind of left over from
Yeah,
19?
this is a carryover.
Perfect, thank you.
This is not in addition to.
Great.
Real quick, give you some background on the process, how we do this. Every year, we print off the prior year's CIP sheets, and they provide each of the department heads. And they're basically told, mark them as either completed. If you're moving it out a year, tell me the years, if you're gonna change it, how you want it changed. Then I give them spreadsheets for them to load new projects. So that's why a lot of times, these projects you'll see have like a, SVC for service 15, which means it was originally started in 2015. And it may just keep getting kicked back, but that's why a lot of times the scriptures look exactly the same, because it was the same project, just pushed out a year.
My question was based on, I saw it in 2019 as a single year expense, and I was just asking.
Yep.
We've got it as a single year expense this time, what happened? That's all.
Yep.
Thanks.
So safe routes to school money just rolls over until we use it?
No, we currently do not have any grant funding. This is city's funds
Okay.
to update our plans. There's a plan for each school district that was done originally, and the plans have to be less than 5 years old to be eligible to be submitted for. This money is to update those plans so we can pursue safe routes to school
Okay.
money.
Thank you. Anything else? Lanier?
Thank you, Mayor. Major projects that we have on the books for CIP next year are, one of the major ones will be car park. As you know, this year we submitted the Nature Works grant for improvements to the park. I believe this park, which is directly behind our city hall and also the police station, deserves to have a lot of the amenities that our residents and also our employees can utilize. That will include a walking path, improved walking path, additional space for small fitness equipment, maybe to allow for our employees to be able to take that time to debrief during the day or after work, and also to have an actual entrance into the park with new signage, etc. More going on will be the basketball court renovations. We have a total of 3 courts going on in our park system. Currently now we are working on the volunteer park basketball courts. Those should be complete within the next few weeks. We have basketball courts at Foundation Park and also Municipal Park, and I believe those are in fair shape, but they can be improved. And the amount of funds that are, I guess, put on the table to improve those most likely will be a savings, but we put a little bit more in there to cover the expenses of new hoops, repaving, and also adding lines as well. Some of the Freedom Park playground, I guess I'll touch on that one. The playground surface improvements are important to remain compliant and to make sure that we're up to code. Currently that playground there has poor drainage. The water just sits inside of the playground surfacing. When it's wet, it does not allow for our residents to utilize the playground as they deem fit. So we're hoping to renovate that area, add some drainage tiling, and run the water out. The roof replacement program, this has been something that's been on the CIP item since before I got here. I believe that we are close to being complete with those. We have to look at Foundation Park. We've completed Car Park. We've also completed Municipal Park. I believe the shelter is next in Conway's Trail, so we're gonna work on that one as well. Master planning, I'll touch on that one. Master planning for next year. We've completed 4 concept plans this year: Liberty Park, Car Park, Foundation, and Liberty, Car, Foundation. What's the next one? Foundation, Car. Can't remember the other one, but I know we are gonna do Freedom Park. I know we're gonna do Freedom Park, Volunteer, and Municipal Park next, and I'm hoping to be able to bring more concept plans to the table in 2020, in hopes to getting a little bit more feedback from our residents, and to allow for them to have more input. We didn't have much input this year to be able to change them, and I'm hoping to get more input next year. That way all of our parks have some concept and of master planning that we can look forward to and actually develop cost estimates for future improvements. Operationally, I am proposing in our budget to add a part-time permanent clerk. This permanent part-time position will be there 30 hours a week to help me with marketing, to help me with some recreational coordination, also to help me with a few things maybe administratively with the pool, since that will be coming on board as well, and just to be my right-hand person to have meetings with, to really help me with some planning processes. I am missing that avenue at the moment. I believe adding that additional employee will free me up to be able to work on some outdoors work additionally with our seasonal employees, and also to allow for me to work on more strategic planning and work with our Parks Board in depth to be able to allow for additional headway and raise the bar in our department as we grow and move forward. I added also an additional seasonal maintenance employee. In the past years, the Streets Department has funded a seasonal maintenance employee. So we've taken that one out and actually put it in my budget to be able to fund that. And I also propose that those be 40-hour weeks versus 25-hour a week. I believe the 25 hours a week that we were allotted the past few years is just enough to get the bare bones complete within the parks, and that's just basic mowing and weed eating. It doesn't allow for us to do small projects. And that small projects may be additional trail maintenance, maybe working on our playgrounds to the best of our abilities to make sure that they are up to code. So adding these 2 employees, essentially 3, just one with a bump in 10 hours, will really allow for our Parks Department to make sure that our parks are clean, make sure our parks are safe, and also to make sure that administratively that we are doing our best for you as council members and also doing our best for our residents in the community. And I'm open to answer any questions.
Well, here, I have start with the car park stuff. I look in the CIP budget, and it talks about that entire thing being 86,000. But 48, I think, of the 86, does it sound right, is the grant?
It would be the grant.
If, what happens if the grant doesn't come through? Is that just, does it carry over the next year?
Yeah,
Or-
what that 86 represents is the grant revenue as well as the total cost for the project, which we have to book. So if we did not get the grant, the project would not be completed in 2019. It would be represented in a future year when we apply for the grant again.
Next question is more for you two. As I follow through here, I appreciate you talking about the extra personnel, because it didn't follow in the CIP, so.
Correct, it's not a capital improvement.
So
Program.
FYI, I just wanna make sure that,
Yeah.
for anybody that's looking for it. And the other question I have for you is regarding the clerk, and that is just, do you, at the risk of sounding like it's a loaded question, do you have somebody in mind for that? Is there somebody that's been working, or do you just hope to post that and get a part-time clerk?
I am hoping to post it. I'm also hoping to do, I guess, a little bit of recruiting as well
Okay.
over time, over the winter, to be able to get somebody that fits that position. The last thing I want to do is bring someone in that is, I guess, fairly new and wouldn't last long. I want somebody that could be here for the longevity. So, yeah, I haven't done any recruiting.
Thank you, that's good for me.
Mrs. Carter? Mr. Powell?
Mr. Barstow.
Yeah, you might need to check with BJ, but you may need to go to, PBR to get a job description for the clerk, so you can post it. The question I have is, so right now you're using, this is on the page, not on the CIP linear, but in the highlights and assumptions part. So you're, and add a part-time clerk position, that's gonna be a new body, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then one seasonal maintenance employee for half the year.
Yes.
That's a new person, or is that more hours for the same slot?
Currently, I have one seasonal employee that is funded between my, I guess, the 101 fund and 206 fund. And there's also an employee that's funded under the streets fund, and which he has been working with me, but have been being paid out of the streets fund. So we have proposed that the seasonal employee that he has in his budget stays for his department, and we add one for my department. That way I automatically get 2 seasonal employees plus the admin clerk.
So the addition of one seasonal maintenance employee, that's a new position?
Yes.
Okay. And then the increased hours for the existing, that's gonna be a 25-week,
Additional 10 hours per week.
an
Yes.
additional 10 hours per week, that's
Yeah.
for 25 weeks?
Yes,
So,
sir.
okay.
If I may, in the past, we have always, with the Affordable Care Act, have always restricted to under 30 hours for part-time
Right.
employees. We talked with Brian and his group, and we're told that as long as they work less than 25 weeks or less, so 1,000 hours, you can work full-time and you don't run afoul of the Affordable Care Act compliance issues.
All right, thanks.
You all done?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. And I hate to keep saying chip seal, but, you know, when we talk about gravel and how it's, you know, they come in and do donuts tearing up the driveways, I'm thinking, I don't know, Alan, if you can help us, as we go down the road here, but maybe some of these parking lots, if they were chip and sealed, that would eliminate buying gravel every year, or, and, you know, in the long run, they'd be cheaper and durable, and we wouldn't have that issue, and we wouldn't, I don't know what we're paying gravel, to put gravel in all these lots at all the parks, but, it's gotta add up versus chip sealing them, so. Hey, are you writing that down, BJ? Thank you very much. If you'd look into that, I'd appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Linear, you didn't touch on, under the 206 Recreation Fund, you have also an additional, it looks like some personnel-related costs for the pool. You have 122,000 in pool operation-related expenses. Again, this is not under CIP, this is under the general comments, I guess, or the highlights and assumptions page. How many people do you think that is, under the personnel-related cost that you quoted in here for 66,000?
That is 8 lifeguards, an aquatic coordinator, which is basically a swim lessons coordinator, and 2 assistant managers.
Seasonal, obviously.
Seasonal, yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, and the clerk that you're proposing to bring in, what role might they play in the pool operation?
Maybe helping me with some of the day-to-day things. So I will be, of course, above, but they will help me some of the day-to-day. Are you saying for the pool, the clerk, or for the actual parks department? So pool or parks department?
I was specific to the pool.
Okay, so if that clerk's gonna help me, that would be approved. They will help me with day-to-day, so they will be there at least 1 to 2 days out of the week. Be there to oversee, and not really oversee them, but help out the assistant managers that are there, and also have some roles with handling funds if needed. And which is big right now is that currently handling funds for me, I want to be compliant and make sure that I'm getting those funds to the finance department the day of versus having to wait a week, 2 weeks. So they will help me with general day-to-day operations. I don't have my sheet that I just proposed and created for those questions, so I can't really dial them down for you right now.
So this person would be collecting your daily concessions and admissions and getting them to
Concessions will remain under PRA, but admissions, anything that will come day to day,
Okay.
I would rely on definitely some administrative help with that.
You have a comment?
Well, just real quick, I know and Ms. Wolf has some other questions, but what I'm hearing is, I think you need to go to PBR and get some job descriptions, because this to me, it sounds kind of nebulous, okay? As to what these people are going to do, and what they're going to do is reflective of how much they're gonna get paid. And so, I think that this needs to get, in my view, these,
I have job descriptions.
that you get job descriptions, and then we can see, PBR is gonna tell you what the wage scale is, but PBR get a job description, and then it can be matched. I think we had a matching, of what a person doing that type of work would expect to be paid, in terms of competitiveness. And so without that, I'm not saying I'm unalterably opposed to it, it's just that I'm not sure that this is as firmed up as it needs to be. Thanks. I'm sorry, kind of Mr. Walter back there.
Anything else?
Nope.
And correct me wrong, you can go to we used to get, when I was on PBR, we used to get notional, we'd have a director come to us and say, I'm thinking about going to council and proposing that we hire an assistant to the assistant for assistants. Can you do a job description for that? And we would sit down, and we would create a job description for them and help them, and then sometimes we would never hear it again because it never, they dropped the plan or it never got approved, because then we would never come back and have applicants and have to go through the applicant process. Sorry.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Until council votes to create the position, it doesn't actually exist, so there could be that approval process through the PBR for those positions.
But you're on the grant that for Car Park, is that 48,000, is that capped at 48,000, or is that a 50-50 split for, the work that you're,
That's the 75%, so it's a 75, 25.
25,
That would be the 75, yeah.
Thanks.
You're all done, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, who's next?
Planning and zoning would be next, and this is one that I think is gonna cause us a lot of heartburn.
Might be pretty controversial, but we'll roll the dice, see where it goes. So we're some of our computers are aging. The city's policy is 3 to 5 years, some of ours are 4 to 6. The zoning clerk's computer's already acting up, so I wanted to start a computer replacement program because I would hate for one to go down in the middle of the year and cause further problems. Also, Windows 7 is not going to be recognized anymore, so it's kind of aging out. So I just want to get on a program so that we make sure that we don't have issues moving forward.
And we have similar programs in the police department and in other areas as well.
Yeah, I could just say going to Windows 10 from Windows 7 is just a lot of fun. Well, be prepared for, stuff that you're used to working, it doesn't work anymore. You have to download patches and all kinds of crap.
Okay, input for Scott? Okay. Next.
I think the police are next.
Police would be
Yes,
next.
going alphabetically.
Go ahead, Bruce, what do you got for me?
I have 2 cruisers, computer replacement. We've been doing that for a while, $2,500 in that line. Criminal and civilian fingerprinting. If you're not familiar, we have a fingerprint machine, and we charge $35 for BCI or $35 for FBI people to come in and get their background checks run through us. We make a few bucks on each one of those, which pays for the maintenance on those machines.
Looks like Windows 7 pops up there again, too.
Windows 7 has killed our machine. It's so full we can't do any more updates, so we have to work on that. And we're also getting, for that price, we're getting a civilian model, so our clerks can actually run fingerprints up front, so we don't have to call somebody off the street if nobody in the office is available, just to run a little bit more efficiently. And we have an incinerator in there for our take-back drugs in our box. It's kind of a hassle to try to make appointments at other agencies. We've been using them for quite a long time, and I think they get a little tired of us bringing a truckload down at a time. So, and our storage isn't optimal for something like that. So
You're not gonna cook hamburgers, you'd use those as the coals, you might have some incredible reactions.
yeah.
Didn't you tell me once Kroger gave us some money for that?
Yeah, they gave us several $100 for that. It's sitting in the account. We're waiting until we
Okay.
see if it gets
All
approved.
right.
Yep. And then, unfortunately, the state determines what breath test that we're allowed to use, and they've just came out with next year, we're gonna have to change machines. So that's a must at $9,000. And then we're asking for wrestling mats for our unarmed tactics. Again, you know, our training room, we can roll all the equipment or furniture out and do our unarmed tactics right in our training room. And that is it. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Anything, Tim?
Nope.
Mel? Mike? Todd? Andy?
Yep. This is again another one that's kind of, justification's exactly the same as last year for the different vehicles in here. Which vehicles did you replace last year in this list? Are these, I'm trying to figure out which ones got taken off the list, because we replaced 2 last year, correct?
The 2
Yes.
worst ones.
Well, I don't know which ones those are.
Okay.
And it's a follow-up question is, and I know these are preventative, right? These aren't necessarily vehicles that are having huge problems. These are, we don't want them to have problems, right?
Correct.
We want them to be operational.
Yeah, and once the maintenance bills get high, then we'd like to get rid of them before they, you know, we lose a transmission or, you know, powertrain, something like that.
So in this list of cars, and ones that are obviously, a couple of them got taken off this year, but with the ones that you're gonna take off this coming year in 2020 or proposed to take off, we have some other requests for, like for instance, the utility department wants to use, get a truck for marking utilities, you know, OUPS type stuff. And I've seen other, city of Delaware uses old cruisers to do that in. Are these vehicles competent for that kind of work? I mean, they're not high-speed chases here.
Sure.
But-
I will say mostly yes. Again, I mean, the reason we get rid of them is because they're starting to cost us a lot of money in repairs. Of course, they're not gonna be driven like ours are.
And they're not gonna idle, well, they might idle.
Yeah, they'll probably idle.
But they're gonna be at a, anyhow. We've got also a request through the water department for operators to have a vehicle to run errands.
Mhm.
Could these be used for that?
Yeah, we've given out actually several vehicles in the past to
Okay,
different
just asking.
departments for something.
I didn't know what list here was bad vehicles, or which one were just ones that might have a small oil leak or something that you could use for other things
Sure.
in the city.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd be more than happy to share.
And then I have one other quick question.
Sure.
I saw in here that you had YMCA, you've been going down to YMCA to do your weapon tech. Do they charge the city anything?
They don't, no.
Okay, thanks.
I can't believe we still have 2012 Chargers, almost 8-year-old cars.
Some of them last better than others. I mean,
No, I think it's a good idea that Mr. Walter brings up. If, you know, obviously, the last thing you want is an emergency, and we've got some cruiser that, you know, the transmission falls out on Broad Street. But I think it could also be used for other departments, for other things. You know, that are low impact, and won't get the kind of.
City of Delaware does that.
Yeah, I mean, I see other cities where it's obvious that that was a police car that somebody's driving around.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool, I would think.
They don't have all the communications equipment on it, the constant use, the high-speed stuff, all that. So I think that's obviously, I think that I would leave it to the police departments and the receiving department's discretion, you know, to take one of the better ones that's gonna be taken out of service. If there's a need, then that saves us money on buying something brand new. That's good. Yeah. Okay, thanks, guys.
Anything else for Bruce? Thank you, folks. Let's see.
Good service. Yes.
Mr. Alan Haynes.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Haynes, I met a friend of yours over the weekend.
Uh-oh.
I'll talk to you about that.
Probably all true. Okay, so Jamie's summer here is pretty good. Obviously, I've got 3 categories, mainly infrastructure, personnel, equipment. I'll start with infrastructure. We're really trying to ramp up, I guess, asset management approach to things, intersections, bridges, drainage. We've already done that with roadways. So a lot of the improvements are trying to get intersection improvements, put those on kind of a 3-year cycle between identification and design, and then funding and right-of-way, and then implementation, hoping that will work. Obviously, looking for some outside funding, OPWC, MORPC, ODOT, to help supplement and make those improvements. As far as bridges, worked with Stone Engineering to, ODOT does annual inspections, but the inspections don't give us a whole lot of information and certainly don't give us any kind of recommendations for improvements or maintenance projects that we could do. So that's what we did with Stone. Went through and identified those, broke them up into basically 3 categories: major, moderate, and minor. I have spreadsheets for those that we worked through with the street committee. Certainly be happy to supply those for anybody that would like to see those and get a little more detail on those projects. But just trying to, again, put that into an asset management style program. And I think I've got 8 to 10 new projects or something like that just have to do with bridges in the CIP. As far as drainage, as BJ had mentioned, we're still doing, kind of trying to do a large culvert replacement per year. Not sure exactly how we got to where we're at, but we do seem to have a lot of culverts that are in pretty bad shape, and trying to get those in good shape and keep those functional. And then specifically, Balloon Lane and Blanche Addition, those are 2 projects that, Blanche Addition, a study was done in 2004. Some of that work was started, but I think there was a property issue. Larger price tag, $500,000 to $700,000, I think, to do that, and it keeps getting kicked. Similar with Balloon Lane, a study was done, I think, 2008, 2010. So roughly $800,000 to $1 million project. So we're trying to look at both of those instead of just keeping kicking because of the large price tag, to break those up into smaller, more manageable phases and actually start to get something done on them. That is mostly it for infrastructure. On personnel, the primary, it's kind of a 2-pronged approach here. The primary is reorganization. So right now we have a superintendent and 7 laborers, effectively, or equipment operators. And when we break up into different crews, there can be some disagreement on who's in charge. So that's part of it. The other part of it is there's really not much opportunity for upward mobility. So by adding 1 new person full-time, we're looking to create 2 crew leader positions, and then have 6 equipment operators. So we go 6 equipment operators, 2 crew leaders, and then a superintendent, which I think would help with those disputes. Have somebody that's clearly in charge, also give that path for upward mobility. Beyond that, there's a number of other things that support that. OOPS is a good example of that. Last year we recognized that we had a utility person and a public service person go into the same location to mark utilities. We recognized that was a kind of a waste of city resources in general, and at the time Chris was down a guy or 2, so the service department took on all of the utility markings, 1 because we had a guy, 2 because he needed the help, and it really makes sense to save the city money on the whole. But doing that kind of put us down about half a guy. Because in OOPS, with as much as going on, development projects and fiber optic lines going everywhere, that takes a lot of time. It basically takes 1 guy most of the time to do that work. Beyond that, obviously we're growing, have more roads, more to maintain. Plowing is a good example of availability of people. They're supposed to be available, but sometimes things happen when you don't expect it, and having more guys available to maintain that level of service is certainly a handy thing. Maintenance, we stay busy, and we'd like to do as much of our own maintenance as we can and keep things, saw blades sharpened, different little minute things like that kind of get missed at times because we stay busy. Definitely want to keep our maintenance up. The next part is seasonal. As Lanier mentioned, the service department was paying for the Parks Department seasonal, at least for this year. The idea with that was Public Service Department helped a lot with parks in the past. Now that we're building the Parks Department, he didn't support that on his own. We'd like to continue to use the one that we have been paying for and then add another. This really helps on things like dig jobs or storm sewer jobs where we'll have to have 4 guys that are working and 2 people maintaining traffic. That's a great job for a seasonal to maintain traffic. I can actually use the two guys that are full-time employees that know what they're doing to do other more meaningful work. Meaningful, I guess I should put air quotes around that, but things that need done and they take a little bit more expertise, so to say. And then I guess the final thing, just, you know, be able to get a little bit more done. I can work to provide a little bit more information on all the work that we do, and put some time and money, or basically some time estimates to that. But you know, if we had another person, we'd be able to get a little bit more of these drainage jobs done and such.
Would that person be a CDL person, right?
Not the seasonals, but the full-time, yes.
And you're asking for one?
We're asking for one,
Okay,
correct.
so they'd be in a plow truck,
Yes,
and how long is the guy allowed to be in a truck, plow truck?
I believe it's 16 hours?
16?
Yes.
So that would help when we're deciding whether we should, when we can go out, and what time we can go out, and what we've got, that can help.
And if we want to split into two crews, maybe have some guys go in late in the evening to clean things up, and then have some other guys come in the morning, yes.
Thank you.
And then finally, the equipment portion, I think the one addition to Jamie's thing is a single axle dump truck for 2020. I did provide to the street committee a justification on that. I can provide that if anybody would like to see that specifically. We have two 2002 single axle dump trucks that remain in the fleet. Obviously 17-year-old trucks, they've been in salt the whole time, they're starting to get pretty worn. I also did looked at maintenance expenses. It seems like we have an average of around $1,500 per year per truck, just replacing tires, regular maintenance. On this truck specifically, we had 5 services in 2019, 3 services in 2018, and it's cost us about $5,500 per year for the past 3 years. So trying to get those last two 2002s replaced over the next couple of years to maintain reliable service and be able to make sure we can plow when we need to plow. Other equipment, a tow behind aero trailer to make things a little safer, trying to replace a skid steer. The ones we have don't have tracks, and when you don't have tracks, it's hard to get off the road. We do a lot of ditch maintenance, and having one with tracks will make us be able to make that a little cleaner, a little more efficient, look better when you're done with it. And then finally, the additional service truck. That kind of goes back to the personnel. If we're adding a person, we're kind of down half a truck, half a person for the oops thing. Just looking to add a 2-door, 2-wheel drive basic truck to be able to keep everybody moving and active and not have to taxi people around using Jason's truck and that sort of thing. That is all I had specifically. Happy to answer any questions.
Would you sell the one roller if you're buying a 2-ton asphalt roller, and that would take care of the smaller projects?
The roller's pushed up to 2022.
Did I jump ahead? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's in a future year.
What would you like to, have any questions for Alan?
One is, I look at the cost of that truck in there, was that off a state bid, or?
That's assumed off of a previous state bid.
No, I'm thinking that looks a little low for a 4-door half-ton truck, but maybe not.
2-door, 2-wheel drive. So Jason's truck that we just got this year was a 4-door, 4-wheel drive, and I think it was 29,000 and change. So I think for this truck, 25,000 should be adequate.
Okay. I think you have 20 in there. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, I meant to have 25. That's what I had in my spreadsheet. But double check that.
Sorry, you got 20.
You got 20?
You got 20.
Okay.
Just, this is kind of holistically, I know we're not talking about the 310 TIF yet, but I see the 310 TIF, is 310 TIF used for part of the path?
The part that phase 1 and 2 was.
Okay. I don't see it being dedicated to what you guys said it was gonna be dedicated to, and that is the work on the work on 310 that AEP's doing.
Yeah, we are using, there's currently a supplemental in front of council that'll have a 3rd reading, I believe.
It'll be in the 2019 budget.
Yeah, it's this year.
So we're gonna take care of it this year?
Yeah, it'll be paid this year, and it's in the supplemental that's pending in front of council.
And it's also providing a transfer to the debt service fund for the money, the loan we took out for the park for all the other improvements along Main Street.
Okay. My next question would be, you're talking about creating this position, I assume that you are envisioning creating a new position, which is a lead worker, elevating another position that you have to a lead worker. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so, is your assumption, and I assume it is, that one of these guys or gals down here is gonna apply for both of those, and you'll just backfill them? So you add one new, and you're budgeting slightly higher cost for one of them, and a brand new FTE for the other?
That's correct.
Okay. And then you're assuming it comes from within?
Ideally, yes, I think, my thought was that we would put out the advertisement for the job, in-house could apply, outside scope could apply, or outside personnel could apply. We could, interview all of them together, hopefully promote from within, and then backfill the equipment operator position.
Not sitting on the street committee anymore, I would probably say I'm done with my questions, except I probably would like to stop in and educate myself on everything that's gonna be done with Taylor and everything that's gonna be done with Halloon, and make sure that I've sat and I've been lucky enough to be here early to hear a couple of street committee meetings. I'm sure that you guys have all talked about it, but that's just an education thing for me, so.
Mr. King?
I just wanted to follow up with the crew leader positions. Tim, you're absolutely right that those from within could apply for them. I'm a firm believer in that any position that's open needs to be a competitive process, whether it's internal or external.
Sure.
And have people earn it, and not just have the right to get it.
Thank you.
Mrs. Carter? Mr. Powell? Mr. Barstow?
And just on the new position, same comment I had for Lanier, again, you can go to PBR and create a position and they can help you, so it's ready to come to council. And I mean, the most valuable resource that we have is the people that work here, not the equipment that we buy. These large pieces of equipment that we buy, it looks expensive because it's a one-time purchase, but our personnel costs are the biggest chunk of the budget if you look at it that way. So if you know about adding somebody, that's a big decision, because there's not just the salary, there's benefits, things that the city provides. So it's a big decision. So I would again encourage directors that want to add a position. Again, you can go to PBR, just talk to them. We did it. They'll create a description. They'll try to help you. I think, as I recall, BJ, I think we used to help even try to get some sort of wage.
Basic wage.
What it's going to cost based on what the market is, so that you can, when you come to council, you can say, hey, we've run this through, and it's gonna cost, this is what we would expect to pay this person based on the wage scales that are in effect, or what's competitive in the market, $22 an hour, or whatever it is, and this is what we're gonna pay, and then you can see the total cost. So, James, go.
We have access, we always participate in the MORPC annual salary survey. It's a fairly comprehensive survey of, here's the title of the position, is your position like it, not like it, and how close is it? And they talk about wages and all that. So that's the first thing we look at to kind of ballpark it.
Right. So I would encourage directors who want to add a position that's fine to want to do it, but again, it's just as Alan, just as you went and said, hey, I think this vehicle's gonna cost me X number of dollars because it's based on what we paid for a similar vehicle within the last couple of years, a little bit better handle on personnel costs, because personnel costs are by and far the largest part of the budget. You don't see that because that's not how we do it, but it is. Thanks. That's all. Thanks.
We did build that in and looked at costs and built
Okay,
that into
good.
to the model.
All right,
And I guess,
cool.
I'm aware of the whole PBR thing. I guess I was looking to see if there was support from council before I took that next step, but we will.
Okay, I just want to I didn't know if you'd gone to them or not, so, okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Walther?
Yep, I've got several questions. On your retention, detention, pond maintenance, in the past, we've spent $50,000, and I know that was spent for, identifying all the different storm detention ponds, who owned them, who didn't, who was supposed to maintain them, and so forth. Again, this is a description and a justification that's repeated from last year. So what are we doing this year for $10,000? You've got in here maintenance efforts. What do we need to do for $10,000?
So this year, we were looking at two different basins, restoring them to a better function and a better look and easier management. some diagrams on that. We're debating how to move forward. One of those is in Amherst Village, which has no HOA, but it is one of the worst ones. So we were looking at doing that one versus not doing that one, because we're kind of spending city money on maybe something that's private, but it's a retention basin that's a problem, as well as one in the Settle, that's not either. No, Hazelwood. And that one does have an HOA, and we're looking at trying to do something where we either provide them with that drawing and say, hey, do this, or go to the HOA and say, look, you guys haven't been maintaining this, we'll take care of this, but sign a stormwater maintenance agreement, and it's yours in the future, because we really don't have much of a way to go enforce that right now.
So is the $10,000 for materials such as replacing a structure or extending a pipe or roto-rooting a pipe or doing something like that? Or is it for contracting out services to go clear brush and
Nails and silt.
and different things? What exactly, what's the $10,000 being spent for is what I guess I'm
All of
asking
that
for.
in general. So for this year, we had Hall do some, a couple exhibits so that we could take that to a contractor to bid out for the improvements that we're gonna do or looking to do. So there's a little bit of money spent on getting those exhibits and working through that and getting a set of specifications so that somebody could give us a bid or proposal on that work. And then otherwise it would be having contractors come in and do work that we are not specifically suited to do.
Okay. With the additional 2 seasonal help that you're gonna get, that you're asking for, plus an additional crew person leader, do you think this could be done by the city? Could this be is this something that, if we're required to go in there and dig out some silt with our new mini hoe, if we're required to go in there and mow around some of these places that probably haven't been maintained for years and years, so some chainsaws, whatever, these people that you're looking to hire for seasonal help, are they gonna be qualified to do that? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to get to is, we're not gonna go contract this work out and get seasonal help too, essentially is what I guess I'm asking in general.
For those, for those 2 items specifically, they probably wouldn't. I mean, for mowing, yes. For dredging, we're not really set up for that, and kinda like for doing like the Glenbrook retention basin, which is another one that's not ours, it's an HOA where Monarch Drive's flooding, so we're looking to put a structure in there. That's something that we really don't have. It's not part of our normal operations, I guess, and stepping outside of that can be challenging to get something done correct, I guess.
Well, it hasn't been one of our normal operations to take care of storm detention basins either. So, I mean, we are getting into something that we need to start doing and need to have people that are qualified to do so. I mean, we've established that over the last several years, ever since I've been here, that this is a problem that we need to look at and make sure we get done. We spent $50,000 studying where they are and who owns them. Now we have to go do something about them, right? That's what the $10,000 is for. Okay. I do have another question.
Well, just while
Go
we're on
ahead.
this subject, and then I'll come right back to you, because once they cleaned out the silt, cut the cattails, cut the saplings, had them all cleaned out, then it would just be just mowing them.
Presumably, unless there's problems with an outlet structure or a head wall, that sort of thing.
Well, let's say all those things were taken care of,
Yes.
then we could possibly maintain them if they
Yeah,
just
definitely
needed
for, like I
mowed.
said, for mowing and cutting down trees and that sort of thing, keeping the maintenance on them in that regard, definitely.
Go ahead, your next question.
The skid steer you're talking about, I know that other departments could use a skid steer every once in a while. The old skid steer, are you planning on keeping that?
We were
Or
just
what
gonna
happens with that?
Give it to the parks,
Good, that's what I was gonna ask. Perfect, because they could really use it.
yes.
And so could, I'm sure there's other departments that could use it on occasion.
Yeah, I think for Lanier's purposes, the
Yeah.
tired skid steer works well.
Okay.
Awesome.
On the intersection improvements, Alan, you've got in here, and I'm looking out to 2022, you've got a $1,500 or a $1.5 million project, and I think that has to do with a grant that's anticipated.
Correct.
So essentially, what it looks like in 2020 and 2021, you're going to spend about $200,000 to, and I think that's all prep to get that $1.5 million grant.
It wouldn't all be 1.5 million, it wouldn't all be grant, but yes, it's all prep work to get the engineering done, get the right-of-way done. That'll help our scores on the grant opportunities, so at least we're ready for it.
Okay. So, do you feel, I know this is a tough question, you know, that's rolling the dice with OPWC. Do you feel pretty confident that spending, you know, $135,000 this year is a good start towards a $1.5 million grant? Because obviously, you don't get the $1.5 million grant, we don't get this done.
Well, so the intersections we've looked at, obviously we have problems. We're doing the intersection safety and capacity study now. We should have the results to that within the next month that will rank and prioritize the safety and capacity and needs of all of our intersections. So we recognize that we have this need. So I do think it's a good idea to go ahead and get the engineering. And I have Summit and Broad intersection in here as what I believe is gonna be the top priority. I don't know that to be 100% true, but to get something in here to be ready for this discussion. And Summit, obviously it's more expensive and it's one that definitely needs done. So I think planning to have that engineering done and have the money to acquire right away, I think we need to do it regardless. So I guess if we don't get that grant, then keep trying to get it and have those plans ready to go to maximize our efficiency and being ready to do that.
Okay. Another question on the Main Street 310 striping. You're saying this is from our northern to our southern boundary, and that includes the streets that we just got done doing through the downtown area on Main Street. Is that included in there, or is this going from basically the railroad tracks north and from the Mill Street south?
That is all of it. The striping was done in 16, I think, so it'll be about 4 years old. And on the state routes with the thermoplastic, the reflective aspect of it starts to deteriorate at that point.
So
I think that's
really,
the recommendation.
we should see this in 2020, we should see it again in 2023, and then again in 2026? Is that what you're saying?
I'd say about a 3 to 5 year cycle. I'd say 4 plus or minus 1, depending on,
Okay.
yes. And yeah, I haven't built that into a asset management style thing yet.
Okay. And then I've got one last one. On your single axle dump,
Yes.
you've got that shown as 2021 being expended, and I think I heard you say now that you're looking at that to be a 2020 expense?
There's 2 of them, and I had intended to build it with one in 2020 and the other one in 2021. I'm hoping that's the way we have it represented.
And again, I'm sorry, I didn't get to, I'm just glancing at this now, but I don't see the other one in here in the CIP, but I could be wrong on that. You're talking about a dump truck, right?
Yep.
You're not talking about a service truck.
Do you have the SVC 17, like all those? Do you have okay, so SVC 17012 should reflect one in 2020.
Zero 1 2.
Yes, 17012.
Hold on, I'm going back to a little bit here. 28, 22, 21. No, I don't see it.
17-012. There is not.
There is.
It's not in here.
Okay, it's in mine.
Okay, well, good.
And then the other one is 20-003, and that was the one for 2021.
And again, I'm just gonna echo the same comment I had about the service truck and doing oops markings. If it can be done with a vehicle we've got now, that could come from maybe the police force, whatever, I think that's a good way of cutting down on some expenses, 25,000. So, okay, thanks.
Mr. King?
Yeah, I just want, your question about the Main Street striping, that is funded from the state highway funds.
I just wondered where the limits were.
Okay, good deal.
And if we have to do it every 3 years, then we probably should show it every 3 years.
Gotcha.
I just have a quick question about striping. You know, I've asked you about striping before. Is there a standard we could get to as we, you stay in here while pavement lines appear clear during the day without reflectivity? They are difficult to see at night and in the rain, causing a safety hazard. I think there's other roads that, do you have a standard that you want to reach and budget-wise to get our roads to some type of striping for safety, even if it's just the white lines?
I guess the way I prioritize that is the state routes would come first.
Mhm.
Next would be our, collector streets, Havens Corners and that sort of thing. And then finally would be the local streets. And the local streets, some of them are pretty narrow as it is. Like Cleveland Road, for example, if we put stripes on there, it would make it seem even narrower. And, so they seem to work well, currently, so I haven't really thought too much about adding stripes with all the other things we're trying to fund, at least on some of those streets.
I realize that, I guess I'm glad to see it here that, you know, it is difficult to see at night and when it's raining.
Yes.
And even though you have a narrow road, did they do Dixon, by the way? I think, did they stripe Dixon?
I don't believe Dixon
No.
was striped.
They
It
didn't
wasn't
stripe
striped
Dixon.
prior, and the Jefferson Township maintained section isn't striped, so we did not stripe it.
Just a,
Pretty straight and narrow, or pretty straight, so
I hope we get there at some point,
that would be
Yeah.
great.
Thank you. Anything else on that section? All right, who's next?
That would be me, Mayor.
Last of the Mohicans.
I'll start with the personnel issues. One thing we did last year is we switched everything from personnel either being assigned to water or sewer to being assigned to inside the plants and out in the system. So starting next year, everybody's wages, benefits, all of that will be split 50-50 through the water and sewer fund. Just an operational thing we did. The utility operator 2 position is one that I'd like to add. It is not a new body, it is more of a promotional opportunity for an operator to get more licenses. There's a 5-year imputaskula requirement and a recommendation from your supervisor to make sure that it's not just get a license and get promoted, that you have to earn it. But what it'll do for the city is give us more coverage with our plants with the EPA. Mainly is our wastewater plant. It's a Class 3 plant. You've got to have a Class 3 operator there. You can have a Class 2 operator fill in as temporary, and that's where this operator 2 position would be required to have. I have gone to the PBR board with a job description. It was very similar to the operator job, except for those extra requirements I just talked about, and it went through the PBR board with no problems. It's something that we've discussed in utility committees meetings. We do have one employee that would probably meet all of the requirements. I'm sure that his supervisor would recommend him for it, and that he would become eligible if this position became open. This also gives a chance for growth, much like Alan was saying earlier. What we have right now is a Field Tech 1 and Field Tech 2 position. We have an operator position, then we have the superintendent. So with the license requirements that have been added, just to walk you through the chain would be a Field Tech 1 coming off the street with no license requirements. A Field Tech 2 would have a 1 in water and 1 in wastewater. That's the same for an operator, has to have a 1 in water and 1 in wastewater. And then this position would be a 1 in water and a 2 in wastewater to give us our backup for the wastewater plant. So it gives you a line to follow and move up. The pay scale, from a Field Tech 1 to a Field Tech 2 is about a 7% increase. We did the same thing with the operator. From operator 1 to operator 2 would be about a 7% increase. But that's what that position is about. If we go to the 2020 CIP plans, I've got the annual meter replacement. A lot of these are ongoing projects. The annual meter replacement is both the meters and the radio read units that are on the outside of the houses. They're good for about 10 years. They have basically 2 AA batteries in them that run them, but they're completely gel sealed, not replaceable. So when the battery dies, you gotta replace the unit. That cost is split 50-50 between water and sewer, so you'll see a CIP sheet for it on the sewer fund and a CIP sheet for it on the water fund as well. I have the WRF upgrade project, which is a project that we are going to 0% loan to the EPA. I'm still waiting to hear back from them, but that's what that project is: the phosphorus removal, changing the aeration disc to blowers, that kind of stuff that we've talked about in the past. The pump replacement program, we have a sewer pump replacement program and a water pump replacement program. It's similar to the meters. Every year there's a different amount that goes into that, and we try and replace motors and pumps as they fail at our plants. Last year on the sewer side, we got relatively lucky, but right at the beginning of the year, on the water side, we had 3 pumps go down right off the bat. So it's kind of hit or miss. You never really know what's going to fail, but that's an ongoing thing that we've got in there. When we get to the new trucks, so I've got 2 trucks in here that I'm asking for. The first one is on sheet SWR 20-001, and that is the one that Mr. Walters was talking about, where it's for the operator to get from plant to plant. What we have now is the Transit. I don't know how many of you have seen that thing, but it is not a good vehicle for going out into the well fields and getting samples or responding to a water leak in the winter or anything like that. So what we would like to do is take the Transit and use that for office errands, running the bank, running from the old town hall up to here, stuff like that. A 4-wheel drive would be preferred for this type of vehicle. I'm not sure if the police vehicles are 4-wheel drive they're getting rid of, but they've got to go out into the well field and they've got to respond in all weather conditions. So I don't know that a 2-wheel drive will get them out there. The well fields don't have driveways, so you're just going to drive out there. But that's what this one is. The other truck is on the water side of things. Water 20-001, that one is listed at 5,000 more. What I would like to get is a crew cab vehicle for that one. So that would be to replace a 2008 F-250 that we have. It's got a snowplow bracket on it, and we have used that to plow our parking lots and stuff in the past. That truck has been beat up. The engine knocks, the transmission slips, and the rear differential slips on it just off the bat. So that one is pretty well done. The department doesn't have a vehicle that can get more than 2, I guess you could, they can comfortably get more than 2 people in it at a time. So anytime we want to show a contractor a job we're doing, or more than 2 employees are going to the same job site, we have to take multiple vehicles. So I figured if we were going to replace the vehicle anyway, that it would make more sense to replace at least 1 vehicle in the department that you could get more than 2 employees in. So that's what that's in there for. There is the I&I Corrective Action Program. There is a $40,000 budget line item in for every year. That is not going to handle any major construction that may or may not be discovered during the evaluation of the sewer system. The 2020 $40,000 is where we were hoping to have the corrective action plan come in at. We're still in the negotiation part of that. We did get word back from the EPA on our permit. They did concede to our request for the strict schedule they were giving us, which is good. So now we're able to take that information and give it to GPD Group, is who we're currently in discussions with. They'll develop a scope and a price, and we'll try to move forward from there. That corrective action program is hard to budget for. They're going to look at the entire, the old town sewer system, and some of the things that we find that need replaced could be large. We may not have large, we just don't know until we go through the process. But for 2020, I feel that 40,000 is pretty good for getting the plan done. That's what we're hoping to get it accomplished. We got water treatment plant well testing and cleaning. That's something we're going to try and do every 4 years. I think predecessor was doing every 3, but I think we can get away with every 4, no problem. 2020 is plant number 2 is in 2020, and you'll see it again in 2024. There's only 2 wells there. It's $25,000. 2022 is plant 1, which just got done last year, but there's 4 wells there, so it's a $50,000 project. Then we hit the water half of the meter replacement program. We get to the Beechwood Trails Tower painting project. We have 2 water towers in Beechwood Trails. They are both in bad shape, painting wise, surface wise. We did have a company that obviously they want to get in on the bidding process, and they're analyzing the 2 towers with a adhesion test to see which one's in worse shape. One of them does have lead paint on the outside, obviously not on the inside, but on the outside. The other one does not. So deciding on which one of those 2 towers is worse is kind of where I'm at right now, but both of them are in bad shape. They both need done. Obviously, Headley Mills is in great shape. It just got redone not too long ago. Southeast Tower, with the washing program that we did this year, I think we bought us 5 to 7 years pretty easy with the touch-up paint work that they did. Beechwood Trails, one of them is a lost cause. It needs to be blasted down and repainted. The other one, I'm not really sure how bad it is and where it's at in the scheme of things. But, so we budgeted in, we've got here one for 2020 and one for 2021. The engineering for both of them, putting the specs together and everything, will be done at the same time in 2020, and then whichever tower could wait longer, we try to kick that out to 2021. So that's what those are. Then there's the water pump half of the pump replacement program, just like the sewer half. Then we move on to, there are several water line projects that are planned for future years. All of the water line projects in here are Old Town. They're all from the 1930s, and they're all cast iron pipes. They're well past their expected life expectancy. The one that is the worst is Jefferson Street's water main. That water main breaks on us at least twice, maybe 3 times every year. I'm sure that there are sections where we've got bands that are almost touching repair bands all the way down that road. So it is definitely the main priority water main that needs to be looked at. So I'm trying to get some engineering done for that next year, and then 2021 look at replacing that water line. Then there is a line item for 2021, 2022, which is the emergency interconnect with the district. That's all pending on talks. If we come to that point, I wanted to make sure that we had the money budgeted in to construct an interconnect if we do indeed get to that point. And then the other thing I have is the parking lot paving, which is a few years down the road. And I'm not familiar with chip seal at all, but if it would suffice, I would have no problem looking at doing a chip seal option. Just to save as much money as we can. So that's all I got. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Wolford?
Oh, good. Okay, well, I do have one question. On the upgrade project, the large project, 1.25, in your priorities, I find it interesting that some of these priorities that I'm reading here, some of them are critical ones, I'm assuming. This is a 5, which to me means that it's not.
What that means is I didn't look at the priority section when I hit print on the sheet and did not change that to a 1.
Okay.
That's what that means.
Because I had understood it to be kind of a high priority.
It is a huge priority.
I had.
If I could put a 0.5, maybe that's what I did. I forgot to put the point. No, I just messed that up.
Fair enough.
I messed that up.
That's what I was asking here
Yeah.
was, seemed to me I remembered that
Definitely
would be
a 1. Yes.
And then, so the follow-up question, Jamie, on this, how would you reflect, so this is a 7-year loan, right, for this project, if we decide to go forward with it, or whatever the case may be, how will you reflect that in the CIP for the next 7 years? Obviously, we have this expenditure, but we have a loan that we've got to repay.
Right.
So how do you do that?
So in year 1, or year 0, basically, when we get the loan, you have let's assume it's a $1.5 million loan, you have $1.5 million revenue, $1.5 million of expense, so it's net 0. And then years 2, 3, 4, whatever the annual loan service would be in the, 654, is it sewer?
Yes.
Water.
It's super.
No,
Sewer, so it would be the
Yeah.
654 debt service, which then I would load that into that budget model, and then I see how much money I need to take from the sewer capital improvement fund to cover that debt service.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a
That's
bunch
right.
of moving parts.
Okay. I wasn't quite ready. But good. That's what I have for my question.
The water tanks, the one that has to be blasted, is that probably the one with the lead?
No,
Okay.
no, as of right now, which is a good thing. So, and that's where this balancing act comes in. So the one water tower has to be blasted down, that's a known, there's no saving that. If the other water tower is able to be saved with a resurface, then you can get 15 more years out of that coating. It may be better to spend your money on that and not have to blast the lead, because then you have all the EPA requirements with lead paint as well.
That's what I was thinking.
So if we can save that first one, that may, the numbers on the 2 towers may switch. We may decide to do Beechwood 1 before Beechwood 2, because Beechwood 2's already lost, so that we can save Beechwood 1 and make it cheaper.
And then on the meter program, the meters are probably like cop cars, it's never gonna quit, is it?
No, the meters, as they run over time, they slow down. So it just amounts to lost revenue the longer you let them sit out there.
So So that's gonna be every year, we're gonna be spending. so much money.
10,000 from water and 10,000 from sewer is what we plan, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Barstow.
I don't have any questions.
Okay, Mr. Powell. Mrs. Carter.
Nor do
Mr.
I.
Tim Hicken. Nothing?
Nothing?
Okay. I know I caught you off guard.
That's okay, I'm good.
But
I'm
did you
pretty,
have anything
I'm
else?
pretty up to date with
Okay, I
Christmas
mean,
stuff.
now's the time to do it, so.
No, that's fine, thanks.
Next, is that it?
That's all we have.
Closing remarks?
I want to say, you know, I appreciate the comments, the discussion tonight, and we stand available anytime somebody wants to come in and meet with us, if we need to pull a department head in or whatever, we'll certainly do that.
Should we go through you, BJ, to do
Please
that?
do,
Yep.
yeah.
For closing remarks, Mr. Nicholson?
No, I think BJ summarized it well. As soon as I do get a relatively firm draft of what the numbers will look like, I'll get that out to you guys as soon as possible. My concern was getting a lot of numbers that could change significantly, and then getting confusion with which version are we working from. I'd rather get to a point where we're pretty firm and I say, here's what we're working from.
Okay. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Wait, just a second.
Okay.
I got a couple things, very quickly, sorry, Mr. Mayor. I put on your desks the performance evaluations for the 3 employees that we evaluated. I apologize for not getting those out sooner, but the spring was not really a good time for me personally, so it just slipped. So I'll give them to you now. I ask that we try to get those done as soon as we can, and then turn them back into to me, and you bring them to a meeting, and we'll get those tabulated, get those out, get a meeting set up with the affected employees. So that's all I have.
All right. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow, seconded by Mr. Powell. Discussion and roll.
Carter,
Yes.
Walther.
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hicken.
Yes?
Meeting adjourned.